Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. It is Friday, which means I have my final video of the week coming at you. In my start-sit video today, I'm going to cover 15 players with the most crucial and up-to-date information as far as injuries, who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and who you can start potentially instead if one of your starters is going to miss. I am going to also cover all of my updated tiers. We're talking quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So you can have all the news, knowledge, and information that you need to absolutely destroy your opponents this weekend. As a reminder, I do this all in half-point PPR. If you have any questions about starts or sits, drop them down below. I would love to get back and help you out. If you are new to the channel or you are enjoying the content, please like and subscribe. All the support is so appreciated. It helps me out a ton in my road to my first 100 subscribers. With that all done and out of the way, let's get into week 11's Start Sit. We are going to start with Kyler Murray, one of the most important situations for owners to monitor throughout the last couple of weeks, really. Now, what we know about Murray is this. He now has logged 3 consecutive practices. That's going back to last Friday. He is trending in the right direction and could potentially be a go this week. However, it looks like he is going to be a game time call. I am optimistic that he is going to be a go, but if he doesn't, we have to downgrade this entire offense after their lackluster performance last week. If you're waiting on him, have a backup plan in place, which could be tricky since the Cardinals play in the second slate of games. I'm keeping him in my second tier of quarterbacks for now. Daniel Jones plays on Monday night and would be a good player to grab if he is available as an emergency start if Kyler does sit. He has a solid matchup with the porous Bucs secondary this week. The next and final quarterback news that I have for you guys in week 11 is all about Ben Roethlisberger, who is trending in the right direction to play Sunday night against the Chargers. This is awesome news if you are a Najee Harris or Deontay Johnson owner, because we saw how poorly Mason Rudolph played in that horrible performance against the Lions last week. Now, I do not have Ben as a starting caliber quarterback this week. He has been so-so at best, and he has a difficult matchup against those Chargers. Let's now move to my updated quarterback tiers, and I'm going to highlight one player in each of them. In tier 1, I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes. He is at home against Dallas. Mahomes came back in a huge way last week, and I think that continues in a matchup that will say a lot about where each of these teams are at. We could see 60 points between Dak Prescott and Mahomes in this shootout, a fantasy manager's dream. As we move to tier number 2, I'm all about Joe Burrow going on the road to face the Raiders. This is a giant game for both teams who have fallen off in the past few weeks, and each needs a win to stay in the crowded AFC playoff race. I think Burrow is able to lean on Joe Mixon and spread the ball around enough to his playmakers on the outside to come out on top, but I am betting the last team with the ball wins in a tight one. As we move to tier number 3, I want to hone in on the rookie Justin Fields at home against Baltimore. After a great game against the Steelers and a bye week, Fields returns to face a Baltimore team that will be hungry to avenge their embarrassing performance against Miami. I cannot wait to see Fields' progression continue against a fairly tough Ravens defense. Can Fields make it 3 straight with a quarterback 1 finish? I am not sure, but I would love to find out. In tier number 4, I'm looking at Carson Wentz. He goes on the road to face the Bills. Now, Wentz has been extremely solid, but Buffalo is going to present his biggest test of the season. Is he truly a matchup-proof quarterback 2 option, or is he going to fold in what is close to a must-win for the Colts as they try to remain in the AFC playoff picture? In my final tier for quarterbacks in Week 11, I'm taking a closer look at Daniel Jones on the road against Tampa Bay. Jones can do a lot to regain owners' confidence in him with a solid performance here. Or be relegated to a bench spot moving forward if he puts up another dud. Let's now move to running backs. I want to start talking about Alex Collins and Chris Carson. News just broke that Chris Carson is going to be placed on injured reserve and have season-ending surgery on his neck. What that means for Alex Collins would usually be some good news. However, he's dealing with a groin injury of his own and is probably going to share snaps in that backfield. So just like last week, I'm trying to avoid this backfield altogether, especially because they play in the second slate of games and there are few other options out there. If you absolutely have to wait and you have some flex capability, you could go pick up someone like Bryan Edwards. He also plays in that late slate. He might be a decent dart throw, but I don't love it. If you can, find another option here. Let's now take a look at the Chiefs running back combination of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams. While Coach Andy Reid didn't flat out state that CEH would be held out for one more week, he did say that there was a possibility of that happening and the Chiefs have a bye next week. This is discouraging for owners hoping to finally get him back, and I would not count on CEH with a late kickoff this Sunday. I am removing him from my rankings with this news. Even in the event that he does play, I think that it would be extremely likely that he would do it on limited snaps. Now, Darrell Williams skyrockets from my 4th tier all the way up to tier 2 and is a high-end RB2 for me against Dallas. Let's now talk about a stud who has been missing for some time and much of the season in Saquon Barkley. It looks like he is going to be good to go on Monday Night Showdown with the Tampa Bay Bucks. If you have held him this far, you pretty much have to start him. However, we need to temper expectations in his first game back from that ankle injury. Due to his limited nature of the practices all week, I've downgraded Barkley a bit. He is now a mid-level RB2 for me in a difficult matchup. Another stud dealing with his own injuries is Alvin Kamara. He does have a sprained MCL, and he was limited on Wednesday before missing practice on Thursday. He has since been ruled out for this week's game. What we know that means is that Mark Ingram is going to slide in with a hefty workload, and we've seen him produce very well in the past when Kamara has missed. I like him as a high-end RB2 in an awesome matchup against the Eagles, and last week in the same situation, he put up a top 10 performance, so even my ranking right now might not be high enough for this guy. Next up on the docket is the combination in Baltimore of Devonta Freeman and Latavius Murray, who finally made an appearance in practice. The Ravens cut Le'Veon Bell on Tuesday, seemingly in preparation for Latavius to return, and he is likely to suit up this Sunday. Now, I think he's probably going to be limited, not only in his snap count, but also in his workload. But what it does is saps value away from Freeman. In response to this, I am moving Freeman back to the bottom of my 4th tier, making him a decent flex option for me and nothing more. For now, we are benching Murray until we see more. The final running backs I am going to dive into before we get into my updated tiers is in San Francisco with Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson. Now, earlier on in the week, Mitchell had surgery on his broken finger, but he has not been ruled out for this Sunday's game just yet. He is looking like a true game-time decision in the week's first slate of games. I'm going to lower him in my rankings due to this uncertainty. He moves from a must-start RB1 to a solid RB2. I'm also sliding in Jeff Wilson, who would be his replacement, into flex territory for now. Now, if Mitchell misses this game and Wilson is the only back there, it would make him a low-end RB2 with upside. So make sure you keep a close eye on reports all the way up until kickoff. As we move into my updated running back tiers, I focus in on Najee Harris. He goes on the road to face the Chargers in LA. Harris is in for another massive performance as he continues his rampage on the league with a Derrick Henry-esque workload. Can he help elevate the Steelers' offense enough to get Pittsburgh the win in a game with massive playoff implications? I am excited to find out. As we move to my 2nd tier, I want to circle in on A.J. Dillon. He goes on the road to face my Vikings. We get a first-hand look at what Dillon is capable of when handed a true workhorse role in Green Bay's offense. With Rodgers dealing with a toe injury and no one else of note behind him, Dillon is in to explode and may smash this ranking altogether. As we move to my 3rd tier, I want to focus in on a guy that I highlighted in yesterday's buy-sell video. That is Michael Carter. He stays home to face the Dolphins. Will the Miami defense that destroyed Baltimore for 3.5 quarters show up? Will it matter with how well Carter has been playing as of late? These are the questions I need answers to. I think Carter outshines my next ranked player, Mr. Myles Gaskin. In tier number 4, I'm going in on my last RB2 of the week, and that is Jordan Howard. He stays at home to face New Orleans. Howard is going to have a tough time all day against the league's premier run-stopping front 7, but I think his volume is enough. They are going to have to lean on him heavily to try and protect Jalen Hurts. In my 5th and final tier, I'm honing in on Zach Moss. He stays home against the Colts. Can you play any back in Buffalo with any confidence right now? It is seemingly less and less likely as the Bills trot out an extremely pass-heavy game plan every single week. Moss sees the most targets out of the backfield, so I am going with him right now as the best option. Let's now take a look at wide receiver news across the league. I want to start with Deebo Samuel, who is still dealing with that shin bruise. He has been limited all week. Now, he is considered day-to-day, and I am guessing he ends up playing. If he does not, Brandon Ayuk would move all the way from my 5th tier to my 3rd and would be an excellent flex option. Keep an eye out on this situation for news on Saturday. Next up is DeAndre Hopkins, and unfortunately for owners, Nuke has officially been ruled out for Sunday's game, making Christian Kirk once again a solid start. He shoots up to the end of my wide receiver 2 rankings and should see the majority of the targets against the Seahawks. Next up is Amari Cooper, and he was just placed on the COVID reserve list. He is out for Sunday's game. Now, I already had CeeDee Lamb very high up in my rankings, so he remains a must-start wide receiver 1 option. What this means, though, is that Michael Gallup now becomes a viable flex play, and I have added him to my rankings. I also gave Dalton Schultz a slight boost. He moves up a tier. Chris Godwin is still managing that foot injury that we talked about last week. Now, it looks like he's just getting routine maintenance as being limited in practice. He should be good to go and is expected to play. I have downgraded him slightly just outside my wide receiver 1s on the week, but he needs to be in lineups as Antonio Brown looks doubtful to play once again. I expect a solid rebound performance from Godwin in what should be a blowout of the Giants. We head back to Baltimore, where I want to talk about both Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman. Now, after popping up on the injury report with a thigh injury, Brown was able to return from practice on Friday. He may be a true game time call, but he does play in the early game, so you're going to have plenty of time to check and see and make a decision. Be vigilant in case he is inactive. I am moving him down slightly in my rankings from the bottom of tier 2 to the top of tier 3. If Brown misses, however, it opens up a big opportunity for Rashad Bateman, who returned from practice on Friday and no longer has an injury designation. He would climb up to the bottom of my tier 3 rankings as a solid wide receiver 2 option if Marquise Brown is out. Now to my updated wide receiver tiers. And in tier 1, I want to talk once more about a guy that was in my buy video yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's A.J. Brown. He's in at 4, and he gets Houston at home. Brown could easily finish the week as the overall wide receiver 1. Julio Jones is out, and he will ask for all the targets after being stifled over the past 2 weeks. Ryan Tannehill would be wise to grant his request. As we move down to tier 2, I focus in on Brandon Cooks. He goes on the road to face the Titans. And Cooks should see plenty of usage in a game that I think starts getting away from Houston by halftime. There isn't a corner in Tennessee that can hang with him, and I love his upside here. In my 3rd tier, I'm looking at DJ Moore. He's my 19th ranked player, and he's at home against the football team. With Cam Newton now back in the fold, it could do wonders for DJ's value, which has plummeted over the last month. I want to see it first before I adjust my rankings, however. As we move to tier 4, it's all about number 23 and Christian Kirk going on the road to face Seattle. Now, this might be too low for Kirk, especially if Murray plays, but with questions around that and the overall offense after their dumpster fire performance last week, he's going to have to settle for one of my last 2 wide receiver 2s in the rankings. In my fifth and final tier, right in that questionable flex category, I want to talk about Darnell Mooney at home against the Ravens. Mooney could easily outperform this ranking, especially since his teammate Allen Robinson may not play. I have concerns with Marlon Humphrey, however, so he is a borderline flex for me. As we move to my tight ends, there is only one that I want to cover before we get into my updated tiers, and that is Rob Gronkowski. Now, Gronk is on track to suit up this week, but I have concerns both with his potential workload and his overall health. I am adding him to the end of my rankings, but unless you have no other options, I would take the wait and see approach on him. After coming back in week 8, he was quickly ruled out and crushed managers who started him. It would be best to avoid risking that type of situation again until we see him healthy enough to log a full game. Now to my tight end rankings, and we only have a couple in tier 1. I want to focus in on George Kittle. He goes on the road to face the Jags. Kittle has been on fire, and I'm excited for him to continue his welcome back tour. He's got a chance at making it 3 straight games with a touchdown since returning from his injury. In tier 2, there's only 3 players, and I want to focus in on TJ Hawkinson. Fresh off the goose, this week he gets Cleveland on the road. I think Hawkinson becomes a more focal point in this offense this week after just a single target last week. He needs to reassure managers here that he isn't fully depending on Jared Goff. A tall task indeed. On to tier number 3, where I want to talk about Dalton Schultz. He goes on the road to face the Chiefs. Schultz moves up a few spots and is a solid start even with his recent struggles. This is a prime opportunity for him to get back on track and reassure owners. Into tier 4, the final one, and I have Tyler Conklin ranked at 11. He gets Green Bay at home. Conklin has been awesome lately and will need to be again in support of Kirk Cousins in a must-win game for the Vikings. He will once again see a solid target share here. And that will do it for week number 11. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. If you have any start or sit questions, please drop them down below. Or reach out to me on Sleeper. I am available there to help you out as well. I would love to support you. If you are new to the channel, if you are enjoying the content, or if you haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe. All the support is so appreciated on my road to my first 100 subscribers. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abriam Opatz, and we'll see you next time.